Now I will go further to the East again. I want to talk about the dynamics of warfare and society, how warfare and social structures interact and survive. Look through Southwest Asia. So I will talk about the societies of the Southwest Asia. During the late Bronze Age, between 14th to 12 BC, we have in this region different powers or states that they have developed since 4th millennium BC in the region, like Susa in southwest Iran, Babylonian in the southern Mesopotamia, Assyria, the Mitanni, and Hittite, which was one of the big empires of this late Bronze Age, and of course Egypt during the New Kingdom kingdom period. And again, we have these Mycenaeans and Minoan cultures in the ancient Egypt. But our information about the Western and Northwestern Iran, we don't have a lot of information because we don't have any structured society. We don't have any powers, and the settlements that they have. So we don't have writing, we don't have any powers, we don't have. Its case, it is not in the historical period. This is going to pass through these prehistory or late prehistory periods in that area. So during the late Bronze and early Iron Age in northwestern Iran has been, so the cultural changes of this transitional period is considered as so traditionally it was considered by the appearance of a new kind of pottery type, which is the gray potteries. It was who was interpreted from different perspectives. It was first Roman Grisham that he developed the invasion theory, and who believed that those that they migrated to the Iranian plateau, the Indo-Europeans, they entered according to the archaeological findings from Tepe-Hesar and Dashte and Dashte Gorgan in northeast Iran, and his archaeological excavations in Godin Tepe. So it was in the central Zagros, in the Iranian areas, in the Iranian region, and they developed this. So it was this pottery tradition, he believed, that came by these newcomers to the region. Following that, there was a site in Hasanlu project, a site located in the southern Urmia Lake Basin, and it was excavated during a vast project by Robert Dyson. And so their findings from them, and in collaboration with Young, they had developed some other theories. They believed that the cultural dynamism. And again, it was this culture, this pottery traditions was considered as the sign of the of the emergence of the beginning of Iron Age in northwestern Iran. And so these pottery traditions considered that they developed by this arrival as a result of the arrival of these newcomers. Although there were some archaeologists like Iana Medvedeskaya in 1982, he developed another theory. She believed that it is this pottery was evolutionized in the society, in the region, and it was not something who has been brought from outside the world. Again, the continuation of the studies by David Anthony, who is an American anthropologist and archaeologist, who's working in the Central Asia, trying to find the roots for the Indo-European immigration into the Western areas. In his book, in The Horse, Wheel, and Language, so he talks about this. So this is not the cultures who immigrate, this is the people who they immigrate. And according to these findings, finally, in a project that is Hasanlu publication project, which was by Metropolitan Museum of Art, by Michael Dante. So they studied, reanalyzed, recalibrated the carbon dating samples and everything, and they find out that the evolutionary theory was correct. So this was not the newcomers who bring this pottery tradition to the Iranian plateau, and it was something that has been already developed in the region. And following that, one of their studies here is the seriation of the potteries from Hasanlu from the same site, and we see that the technological as well as the forms of these potteries have been developed in the region during the late Bronze to the early Iron Ages period. But what were these changes for this transitional period? It is the development of distinct military architecture plans in the area, development of a kind of monumental architecture in the form of column tiles, replacing bronze tools with iron tools, drastic changes in the number of weapons, representation of warfare in artwork from region, occurrence of burials with weapons or warrior tombs, an increase in the number of ceremonial weapons in ritual context, in burials or some other ritual context, and militarized use of the landscape who occurred gradually during the period. The question here, I just want to ask the relation between these changes in archaeological findings and the development of the warfare in the ancient Southwest Asia. So as we know that warfare has a history as long as human history, it is inevitable. So in the form of warfare, in systematic warfare, sometimes in the form of conflicts, very unstructured countries in the societies. But from the early 60s period, where the archaeology of warfare has become the topic area of archaeological studies, there has been many studies that considering the reasons of warfare and so why it starts and how they manage it and different things. But we know that warfare, they don't occur at once and because of any other regions. They are a long process that occur and because of many reasons, multifactorial and multi-dimensional aspects of human societies. They develop, they occur because of different things. They employ various aspects, various factors, and they affect and they are being affected by various aspects in their societies. I just want to propose a model that these warfare will interact in that societies. So sometimes they being affected by these three distinct social, distinct complex systems. This is the core societies that we want to study them. They're neighboring areas who can affect them in different ways. And both systems, they are affected and they interact within a larger system, which we call it here environment. So environment directly affect these both societies, and they affect each other indirectly. So in the area that I'm going to study, this is a core study, is the prehistoric or late prehistoric societies of Western, Central Zagros and Northwestern Iran. And the neighboring societies are including the Mesopotamia in southern and northern, in East Anatolia and southern Caucasus region. And they will be considered in a broader context of the environment, because as we know, I don't want to talk about just everything they're responsible for all these changes or warfare are the environment, but the geopolitical positions, the mines, I don't know, the neighbors, and everything affects the emergence and the continuation of wars, and as well as the consequences that they have when they occur. So the material that I'm going to study is the archaeological material, military architecture, burial traditions, Assyrian and Urartian cuneiform texts, and representation of varying activities in the artwork from the area. But I want to study this in a broader context of the social context. In his book, Eric Klein, in 1177, he talks about the late Bronze Age collapse in the Eastern Mesopotamia, in the Eastern Mediterranean region. That so there are many reasons who blame for that: the earthquakes, the sea people who are most blamed for this dark age, the beginning of this dark age, which resulted in the depopulation of or collapse of many urban centers, major urban centers who were controlling the trade networks of the Bronze Age in the ancient world, like Megiddo, I don't know, and as well as the collapse of the Hittite Empire, which they occur all at the same time, or the Mycenaeans or Minoan cultures in Crete, in Greek lands. But there are some powers that can survive from this Bronze Age collapse, like, for example, the new kingdom of Egypt, as well as the Assyrians, who they had the big armies in the world, and most powerful and structured armies of the world. As I mentioned before, we don't have any information, so contemporary written sources like from Mesopotamia or from Mesopotamia, they don't give us many information about the societies who are located in central Zagros and northwestern Iran. But this happens, so this population movement occurs during that period, and this is inevitable. In two major works who consider the climate changes and environment and history of the ancient Near East, which is done by Issar and Zohar, and the study of Philip Bujard from the proposes from the three possible Iron Age world system to a single Afro-Eurasian system world, which was published in 2010. They remark to an important point that following the 1200 BC, we have a lower temperature and aridization of the Central Asia in the steppe land led in the population movement of these, of the people from these lands to start to come to the down in just looking for the pastures. But the material culture from northwestern Iran, we have two distinct things. First, the changes in the burial tradition that we can see in this map, as you can see here. We have the distribution of a kind of burial traditions that we call them cromlech kurgan structures. As well as some kind of other structures, some burials who are associated with the mounds or tepe, that we can call them the settlement, many which are constituted of different layers of settlement periods. As well as these, again, the distribution of a new architectural features, which call them the mounds, the hill forts, that they appear to increase in late Bronze Age and early Iron Age in northwestern Iran, again in a region that we call this Ardabil, Ahar, and Varzegan, as you can see here. And at the southern Urmia Lake Basin, we have a new group of military architecture that they are associated to mounds, and they are built of bricks and earth. So these two kind of architecture which appear into these different architecture. From this period on again, we have the emergence of a kind of development of a kind of ceremonial or monumental architecture in the form of columned halls. These columned halls, which are composed the second phase of late Bronze Age in Hasanlu in southwestern Urmia Lake region in northwestern Iran. So they are replaced by very small houses made of mud brick, measuring 1 meter to 2 meter, with no well planned, but they replaced by this architecture. And not only this one, and again, at the same area, we have the columned hall, which is developed in the Kortlar Tepe in western area. So this small building or monumental building, suddenly they develop their architecture, and as you can see, they became to a complex architectural complex during the Iron Age 1 in again the same area in Hasanlu. At the same time, about the hill forts, we have in some areas like Varzevan, again in Ahar region, we have this is the three mounds, the main mount, which is a military hill fort architecture, which is built of stones, unlike them, and they are located on a rocky outcrops of these mountainous areas. And at the foot of these hills, there are some cromlech kurgan structures that we can see here. So this is the military architecture. This is the military fortification walls around this area. And as we can see, the walls are made of constructed of stones without mortars, which is architectural features of characteristic of the late Bronze Age and early Iron Age in northwestern Iran and in Armenia and in some parts of southern Caucasus region. At the same time, during this period, we don't have any distinction between male and female, and we have both of them, male and female groups, buried with weapons. So we can't say that during Iron Age or late Bronze Age, we have a distinct group of militarized group or militant groups in the societies. So both men and women have been buried by weapons in their burials, and these burials are composed of kurgans, cromlech structures, as well as the pit burials that we have in, for example, Masjid-e-Kabud. But the beginning of the Iron Age 2, which is the level Hasanlu 4, is ended by a crisis, and we know that this fortified architecture was burned. This is a burning area that we can see as the result of a kind of warfare or invasion, something like that. And we can see in situ everything, the skeletal remains who were trying to escape from this fire. And so the level is destroyed, and there is still debates who destroyed Hasanlu. So there are many articles still that there are many theories. It was the Assyrians or the Urartians who destroyed this level in Hasanlu. But from the Iron Age period on Iron Age 2, we have a distinct group of male burials which are associated with different types of weapons, a group of it which are with these kind of belts and with daggers and spears, and the other groups which are placed with a kind of just more spearheads, and their belts and everything is completely different, and most of their weapons are made of iron. And we can see that the replacement of the iron in making to produce the weapons is going to be more used than the bronzes. So I want to discuss why this happens. So to have a broader look to the region, what happens in the area during this Iron Age 2 or the first millennium to 800 millennium, here there is a new power that the Urartians, which before that was the confederation of some tribes that they call them Urarti or Bianili, and now they have been developed a new kingdom, a new power, which call it Urartu. So the emergence of Urartu would be one of the reasons that the Assyrians pay more attention to their northern and northwestern areas, As we can see here in the earliest inscriptions of the Urartians, they are all located in Iran. They're located in the eastern Urmia Lake. So this is Hasanlu, Qaladagh, which is attributed to a hill fort, to a fortification to the Urartians. And this is the Kelashin. So this is the passage who connects northwestern Iran to northwestern Iran to north as Assyria. So here they are all located here, and we know that. So because of this, the emergence of the development of the Urartian empires kingdom is another reason who attract the Assyrians to the region. And as we see that again, the Hasanlu citadel, they reconstructed following during the Iron Age 2 period. At the same time, the recent studies by Bishone and Roberto Dan about the distribution of early Urartian fortifications, that we can see that again, those that they can measure in their size. So they are all located in this area. This is northwestern Iran, it's Urmia Lake. This is Lake 1 in eastern Turkey, which was one of the major capitals of them in Tushpa, in present 1, and in the southern Sevan Lake in Armenia. Now, they are their major and main lands in these mountainous areas that we have seen their fortifications, which are generally hill forts. They are places located on the rocky mountains, outcrops, and they have different sizes according to there. So the reconstructed clusters of Urartian fortification, as we can see here, and so these squares are the big, the major hill forts, and the triangles are those that they served as the post, as a road post, as a city post, and so some other things. As we can see that again, they are all located in these two distinct areas. So we know that by the 800 BC, the Urartians start to expand their tertiaries to the northwestern Iran, and as the result of the German archaeological expedition by Wolfram Kleist and Stefan Kroll, they have registered these Urartian hill forts along these areas in northern Iran and in eastern Urmia Lake. And by the arrival of these groups, we have different forms of different forms in different size, and so architectural characteristics of these different hill forts in northwestern Iran, which are located in the region that I mentioned during the Iron Age 2. So if we go again to the southern areas, we have in the Lake Urmia and in the northern Luristan area, we have the development of another power, another kingdom when they became. So first they were not a kingdom, they were a group of tribes with Mannaea at the center, at the head of that groups. But then they established a kingdom, which is here the part mentioned in green. In green is represent their core area. But as we know that, according to, again, archaeological studies and the written sources from Urartu, and especially from Assyrians, we know that this area, they acted as a buffer state between the Assyrians from the south and the Urartians from the north, and they were completely aware of their role as a buffer state in that period. And sometimes when they became allies with each of them, they could have some. So they asked for some benefits, some points from that area. And as we know here, at the same time, the military architecture that remained, unfortunately, we don't have many sites excavated, but these two sites who have been excavated, as you can see, they have a uniform, some standards in their plan. So they have these complexes, they have the surrounding wall, generally with one entrance, which is generally located in their east. At the same time, the representation of one of the Mannaean fortresses in the Khorsabad Palace of Sargon II, we see the characteristics of these. So this is Mannaea, and as Dr. Mollazadeh, an Iranian archaeologist, so he has surveyed all these and registered all these Mannaean fortifications. One side of them was fortified naturally, as this is also marked out in the Assyrian iconographies that we have from this period. But why these regions were important? And so the development and the Assyrian war-varying policy resulted in the development of this region. I just want to discuss how and why this happened in that region. Following the 900 BC from Ashurbanipal II reign, the cavalry became a regular part of Assyrian army on campaigns. And we have this in written sources and in iconographical documents, imagery documents from the Urartian, from the Assyrian bas-reliefs. For example, we can see the earliest representation of Assyrian cavalry units in the bas-reliefs of Ashurbanipal. And as you can see, they are represented in double side by side, in double moving side by side archers. So they were not professional enough in that period, this cavalry. And this is why one of them is controlling both horses, as you can see here, and the next one of them is shooting the arcs. So, and as you can see that there is they don't have enough equipped, and they are barefoot, and they don't have enough, so their uniform is not developed, the cavalry uniform is not developed during that period. So, but why they were using this? But although, according to the text and the iconography, the chariotry remained still as the main part of the Assyrian armies, and the kings and big commanders are also represented at the back of their chariots from this period on. But why they were forced to use what has led in the discarded the chariots from the military campaigns? Again, the Boulevard Gate, the representation of Urartians and some of people who are related here, who are located in the north, representing the northern Assyrian neighbors. They show that, so they're all coming from the mountainous areas. They're hill forts, so they're located in the mountainous areas. And these Assyrians, in order to fight with them, to overcome with them, they have to come again. They fought it with, as you again see here, with double cavalries, double horses walking side by side during this period. Again, these are the Urartians made, and they're in war with Assyrians. And here, this unique, again, part of this bronze band in Balawat Gate, it represents that the horses, the chariots, they were not effective when they were fighting, when they were going to fight in the mountainous areas. So the changes in the landscape of warfare for the Assyrians resulted in the appearance, the adoption of new varying techniques, and in a varying techniques that they are not very efficient in that, they're not very professional in that. So again, we see, as in all of them, we can see a horse rider by two double horses working on side by side. Again, from that period, we see a new group of cavalry in the Assyrian representations. They are not Assyrians. They are the group that we associated to the Scythians, the people, the Indo-Iranian people who come from the steppe areas. They were not the first riders, but they were the best riders in the area. They would come from a region that the first time they have domesticated horses, and they have very skillful on horses, and their varying techniques. They use light bows, and they can shoot their bows while they are moving on horseback in their back bars. So they can freely, as you can see here, they can freely use this. So these are the new enemies that appear in the written sources and imagery of the Assyrians, that they new rivals, that they cause problems. The problem is that these people are nomadic people, so they don't have a city, a capital, a place, so that these Assyrian kings, they can go, and as always, they can go, they can invade, and they can conquer them. So this changes everything. We see the same iconography, the same groups of these cavalries, same of cavalries in the Urartian areas, who were engaged in war with them since the 900 BC, when they came to the southeastern borders of the Black Sea, like the Cimmerians. So again, we see this is the Scythians representations, again, the chariotries that they can't reach them. And again, we see the Urartians also are represented in double riders working, moving side by side. So one is controlling the horses, and then the one is shooting the arrows. So again, we can compare these groups. Again, we have in different iconographies, we have seen these Scythians who came in the region, and they have changed, resulted many problems, many troubles for their Urartians and Assyrians. So the next thing, so the horses became important, very important in the Assyrian army. These are not only the chariot horses, but we can see different different breeds of horses, that they are taken from different areas. According to iconographies and the written sources, we know that different group of horses, different species that came, they brought to the region, as for example, these ones that they are taken from Urmia, from the Urartians, and you can see this is the Urartians themselves representation of their own horses, and we can see that their long neck, their so slim, very thin legs, and they are so similar to each other. Again, we have the Kushite chariot horses. As you can see, these are the big horses that they are brought from Kushite, from Nubia, where they were the sources of to provide the chariot horses from that region. And again, we can see here the Medans, who are the early the Central Zagros Iranian, so people, they are taking as a tribute, they're taking horses to the Assyrian kings. So the horse became an important thing and an important strategic animal for after following the first millennium BC. We have in many written sources, we have references to refer to the different people of the Mannaea, of Mad, Media, of Urartians and Scythians, who provided the bowls, some grains, and the horses, and sometimes they also provided the riders to the Assyrians, so that they can use them in their armies. So according to the written sources, as I mentioned, the Media, Mannaea, Urartu, and Scythia was the main sources of to provide the cavalry horses for the Assyrians, while Nubia is the main area that they provided the big horses for the big chariot horses to that region. Again, see, these are some Medan warriors or Medan riders represented in the first millennium BC on a seal and a pottery shared from Tapesialg in central Iranian plateau, that you can see they are not, we don't have a double horse rider, they are single double horse riders. And we know that the Medan riders were efficient and they were taken as tribute by the Assyrians from that period on. So this is the region. This is the map representing different distinct groups of Iranians during the first millennium BC, who are distributed in different areas. The black area, which are the black dots, represent the sites associated to Mannaea, and from this period on, which is in central Zagros. So this region, following the Iron Age 3, became one of the major sites, as this is mentioned here, of the Assyrians, and we have many major sites that associated to to the Medes, or some kind of sites associated to the Assyrian sites in Iran, like Nushijan, Godin Tepe, and Babajan. So from this period on, again, we can see the Medan fortification represented on the Assyrian bas-reliefs that represent the siege and the capture of the city. And we know that, again, these buildings in the central Iranian plateau, like Godin Tepe, they are built in different architectural phase. So they were all, they didn't build at the same time. So they were built and they will develop during the different periods, as we can see here. So their location and the remains of their architectural their architectural remains here help us to reconstruct this. This is a reconstruction proposed by Hilary Gopnik in 2011, according to the way that they are used. For example, we know that the Medan, the Indo-Iranian peoples, way of construction of their buildings or fortifications on mud brick surface. So this is a tradition who came to the area, that we know that in different sites, for example, in Central Asia, in Ologh Tepe, in Uzbeki, in different sites in Iran. So, and this is again the Nushijan Tepe, which is associated to the Media in Central Zagros in Iran, and they are composed of a columned hall, some storage areas that they are, and with a specific a cruciform ritual or, I don't know, temple architecture from this area. And they have been strengthened by some fortification walls here. So these are the similar architecture who are associated to the first millennium Iranian architecture that made of mud brick. They are not the hill forts. They are not constructed of stone. They're constructed of mud brick, and most of them are built on a natural or constructed platform. This is a tradition that we can see in a vast geographical area in central Zagros to Iran, in Godin, Nushijan, Olog Tepe, Gunespan Tepe, and in the sites which are located in these areas. So again, we see that most of the areas that is Assyrians, this is the Sargon II, the end of the 8th century BC. So as you see that most of the areas that they are engaged in war, so they're most of them are the mountainous areas. And we know that from Sargon II period, on the iconography of the Assyrian reliefs, so we can see gradually the horses, they start again to have single horse riders to move, and at the same time we see they're using a kind of socks made of animal skin, which is used by these riders to protect their food or their feet, because we know that prior to the Sargon II period, they are participating in war in barefoot. So, and we know that this is very dangerous for them. So from this period on, and especially from the Sennacherib and Ashurbanipal II, we see the horse riders. They have well equipped, as you know, they have their equipped, and they have their some kind of boots, their uniforms. They're using long spears, long swords that they can use them on the horseback. At the same time, we see them in war in mountainous areas. So here again, they are the Ashurbanipal cavalry who are fighting with the Elamites, which are in the southwestern Iran. So archaeological remains from this period on, again, they demonstrate the same changes here. As we can see, these are the daggers made of bronze, cast in one piece mold, and this is a culture, this is a metal metal production technique that is used since the Middle Bronze Age to the First Iron Age period. But in the later phases of this period, again, we have daggers made in the same form, as you can see, but they're short. Their length is varying between 35 to 50 generally, to 50 centimeters generally. They are made of bronze, but they're made in cast-on techniques. So they have their blades cast in one piece with a tang, and then the hilts cast on their blade. So the earliest example workshops of producing this, using this technique, is discovered in Haftepe and Shush during the Middle Elamite period, that is about 1400 BC. But this is again used in Southern Caspian Sea region and in Talesh, Iranian Talesh, and in Azerbaijani Talesh. But by the Iron Age too, we have the development of a new kind of weaponry, and generally these are produced in northwestern Iran, in the areas that we have these hill forts. We have relation with the Southern Caucasus region generally. And they are composed of long swords. Some of them long swords. Some of them their length is about 90 centimeters. So actually, they are the weapons that we know that we cannot use them without horses. They have to be used in horseback because they're heavy, they're long, and so we can't use them. These weapons are made of cast-on technique, but they are generally made in bimetals with long iron swords and with cast on bronze hills, as we can see here in these examples. And this area that you can see is the main area that we have the examples from archaeological excavations. But at the end of the Iron Age 2 and the Iron Age 3, we have rather all these weapons, the bronze weapons, replaced by iron ones. So the technology developed in that area is not using in farming and other things. They're always using in making long swords, long iron swords, or some other some iron swords, iron arrowheads, iron spearheads that we have from this period on. By the emergence of the Persian Empire in a large geographical area, not in more than 100 years, we can see that so this is the Medes represented in the Assyria in the Achaemenid palaces. As you can see, so they are first wearing the same clothes, the same uniform as the uniform worn by the Scythian people. They are using some quivers are similar, and they are using the same daggers, echinokes, which is known as Scythians. We know them, we see them at the belt of these Medans or some Persian soldiers, the Persian people here. This is a statue of the Darius I with his echinokes, and again, this is a Medan that we can see him again using the same echinoke here. Thanks for your attention. But I again want to say that warfare is really complex things. We can't consider everything, or especially in archaeology, because we have some factors, we can't study them, like agent-based factors, people, their decisions, and their psychologies. We don't consider, but they all affect the future of warfare, the future of societies. But I think this was the results of the environment, the warfare, and many things that resulted in the development of the societies in Western Iran, although we didn't have any practice, any powers, any major social or we can say power political structures, but finally they resulted in the emergence of the Persian Empire. Thanks for your attention.